All right, YouTube, let's ramble our way through this mess, shall we? Anyways, I'm Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. If I had a channel intro, I would have put it before somewhere in the past couple seconds. I don't have a channel intro because then I have to have music and a graphic, and you just fast forward past it anyways. So it is what it is. Uh, yeah. Anyways, this week I am reviewing Camelot 3000. The deluxe edition by Mike W. Barr and Brian Bolland. Bolland? I don't know. Whatever. Pronouncing names is hard. This was the first DC Comics first 12 issue maxi series. Originally came out in 82 and 83, I think. The first DC direct comic printed on Baxter paper instead of newsprint, whatever the hell that means. I mean, I know sort of what that means. It means it was not printed on newsprint, so there's no excuse for these garish colors in the reprint. They're really garish and flat, and I couldn't find the info on who did the coloring. I did very little research, by the way. So I thought when I first was sitting down to do this, I was going to blame the flat, really bright colors on the fact that it's a reprint and was coming from newsprint, but it's not coming from newsprint. So it's just flat and bright and garish and 80s. The 80s. All right. That kind of leads me into my big issues with this book. Did I love it 3000? No, I did not. And that was a reference to Infinity, whatever the hell. That movie, Infinity Gem Saga ending crying game, whatever. I'm probably going to not make fans of this video, and I'm probably going to ruin someone's childhood because they love this movie or this book as a kid. And that is kind of my point of this. You know those 80s movies that came out that, like, you rewatch them now and they're like cringy, and there's like sexism and racism and misogyny and all sorts of issues with it that you didn't notice when you first watched it as a kid, and you just kind of liked it. And now if you're watching with grown-up eyes, you're like, that's not so good. You probably shouldn't do that. And I can see why this would never get made. Or if you're on the other side of the fence, you're like, that would never get made today because of cancel culture. Well, I'm not on the cancel culture side of it. I'm more on the that's cringy and awful, and we should try and probably do better now. This is cringy and awful. We should try and probably do better now. It's misogynistic. It's sexist. It's racist. It's transphobic. It's all the above. It's, yeah. And plot-wise, it's a hot goddamn mess. Yeah. The art by Brian Bolland is whatever. It's fine. It's pretty draftsman-like. It's not anything special. His Killing Joke is much better, which he did a couple years later. I think this is coming right off his run of Judge Dredd from whatever 2080. So he went from 2000 to 3000, and yeah, this is like what if King Arthur were real? What if King Arthur came back in the year 3000 and the year 3000 looked like the 1980s? Imagine the year 3000 would, with giant shoulder pads and otherwise, and robots, but otherwise everything was pretty much the same as they thought they were in the 80s. Like, men have all the power, white men especially. Women can't do combat, and transgender is definitely not a thing. Yeah. So King Arthur is revived to combat aliens, although the aliens really don't play into this book, other than like to bookend the whole thing. And then, along with King Arthur, everyone else in his court, not really, half his court gets revived. And by revived, I mean they just sort of take over the bodies of existing people in this time period. And that drives one of the major plot points in that Sir Tristan from King Arthur's court comes back in the body of a cis female. Well, comes back in the body of a female, but identifies as a male. And that's a running gag and a running plot point and a running bit of controversy throughout this whole thing. It's pretty ham-fisted and not very well handled. And looking back on it today, you're like, yeah, that's one of the big things that's not good. And like your sort of eyes into this story is through Tom Prentice, one of the characters of 3000 AD, whose family's killed, and then that just kind of doesn't become a thing. I mean, he's sad about it for a couple panels, and then he just finds King Arthur's stone. Oh yeah, spoilers by the way. There's spoilers, but I'd be like, spoilers. And then he finds King Arthur's, Excalibur. No, he finds King Arthur in a stone, rapes King Arthur to death, then Excalibur comes back. It's just the plot kind of is just all over the place in a jumpy, hot mess. But yeah, King Arthur comes back. Merlin gives him Excalibur because Merlin comes back once King Arthur's back, and then all of a sudden that apparently rallies the world, but they don't really explain why or how or any of that. And so the world's rallied, but then Morgana's around, and she's the cause of the aliens, I guess, and oh boy, I'm just exhausted just getting this far into it. Look, here's the thing. If you like the 80s and want to like revisit them and not have a critical eye and just kind of want to gloss over all the problematic issues, this is going to be fine for you. If you like the 80s, but you're also aware that, like, you know, things have changed in some ways for the better, and you know, and a lot of eyes have been opened as to problems, this is not going to do it for you. I'm going to give it away, so if anyone wants it, leave a comment down below as far as something that, yeah, something you grew up on that, like, if you look back now, you're like, yeah, that's not so good. Could be a comic, could be a movie, could be whatever. Just leave a comment down below explaining that. I'll give it away next week. Yeah, so I said this in the middle, so if you watch this and notice, you're going to do it, but no one will, because I didn't timestamp it, and I didn't notify anyone on it, and no one watches these weekly videos anyways, or very few. That's just fine. I just do them because I want to read these volumes, and I got this volume free. I think I got it as a giveaway from Whodat Comics, so thank you, Whodat. I'm going to pay it forward, so when are you going to maybe enjoy it, maybe bash it, maybe whatever. I don't want to spoil the whole plot. I mean, this is a very plot-driven book, but the plot doesn't make sense. There's characters that appear just to help characters get from point A to point B. There's things that are just never resolved, and the resolutions that do happen are not very satisfying. There's no character growth or no learning. There's no like real true like hero's journey in this, because the hero arguably is King Arthur, but he's just kind of a background figure for most of the book. And Tom Prentice, who's your eyes and ears into this, doesn't really do much, doesn't learn, doesn't progress. Hits on the trans character blindly and does awful things to try to get his way and has no repercussions. And then the other characters are pretty much just fodder for dying, for the most part. They really are. And there's a little bit of nod to the original Arthurian legend here and there. And like they touch on it and they kind of go through some of it, but it's just... it's an incoherent, babbling mess, and it's just not for me. Yeah, not at all. I would say it's fine, but it's not even fine. It doesn't... No, thank you. No, it's not good. Trying to think of what else I can say about this without... Oh, yeah, okay. Other problematic things. They talk about rape at least 2 different times in this book, and they just sort of gloss over it, like, oh, whoopsie. And not even a whoopsie. There's like, King Arthur had his way, and that led to Mordred. And then Tristan forced himself upon blah, blah, blah. And then never dealt with again. Just kind of like, oh, yeah, a little bit of Arthurian rape. It's fine. So, yeah, this... And I get the 80s were 30 years ago. I do. But, I mean, that's not really that long ago. And we had... Rape's never been a good thing. I don't know. I don't even know what else to say about this one. I just, yeah, really disliked it. But if you want it, I'll give it to you. So, US only. Be a subscriber. Hit the like button. Hit the notification bell. Follow the directions a couple of minutes ago. Yeah, it's a short review. Because I don't want to keep talking about how much I really hated it. So, it was a struggle to get through. Yeah, this is probably my worst review ever. But I'm okay with all that. We have to have the downer now and again. So, that's all I got. I'm out of here. Don't be a dick.